Today, we begin a new series on the passage that we find in the Gospel of Jesus according to Matthew chapter 23. It is Christ's 7 woes on the teachers of the law and the Pharisees. So I invite you to read with me the first two, and then we will be doing our study of the others throughout this weekend to come. Let us read the verses from 13 to 15. It is the two first woes of Christ on the teachers of the law and the Pharisees. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You travel over land and sea to win a single convert, and when you have succeeded, you make them twice as much a child of hell as you are. It is not news to anyone that society has created a corrupted system. But for us to make a parallel and understand the teachings of Christ in this passage that we are reading, we have to understand first who were the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. Well, they were two groups that in essence, they wanted to be in connection with God, that is to follow very thoroughly the laws of God and also the ancient tradition. But the problem was their hypocrisy, which Christ calls them on, because they were charging society in a very harsh and strict way to be disciplined and follow God's laws, when with them, they were creating exceptions. They were doing the opposite. They were interpreting the laws and traditions in a way that would benefit them and prevent them from facing justice, from facing what was predicted in the laws, that they were so harsh with society. And for others, as we said, they were like, no, you have to follow it. There's no exception. You have to be doing this by word. Isn't that kind of the reality nowadays? Don't we see that? People that are always talking about following the laws, that we have to follow word by word, that we don't have exceptions. But then when that law turns towards them and starts to demand them that they should be following it too, then they find exceptions. Then they start to reason over that law and find ways that prevent them from facing the punishment that is predicted on the law. Now, one thing that Christ is calling their attention here is that they are using their knowledge in a corrupted way. They are using what they know of the law of God as well as the tradition to prevent others from also growing. It is that sense that we generally speak about and talk about, of understanding that for us to grow, it gets to a point that we need to start to be corrupt, that we need to forget our values, our principles, and corrupt ourselves so that we can get out of the material and spiritual misery that we are in. But Christ is telling us that, no, that's not the reality. That's what was built. That's the corrupted system that was created through the knowledge of those that don't want others to also reach God. So here Christ is calling us to perceive that, look, God is our standard, and our standard is the top of the mountain. We all want to go there, and we all can. We all can work towards it. Through knowledge, we can understand the path of the mountain so that we can reach the top. But the problem lies on those that, even though they can, they have the capacity because they put themselves as a victim, or that they reached a comfortable level in their lives and they don't want to grow anymore, they don't want to reach the top of the mountain anymore, then they start to think, I am already done. What Christ is asking from me is too much. I can't reach that standard. Poor me, I'm facing a lot of struggles right now. I'm overwhelmed. I can't do anything else. I am already here at the top that I wanted. I know that there is more for me to reach so that I can be with God, but it's too much. I can't. Christ is asking too much of me. I'm not going to do it. It's too hard. And then because the person believes that they don't have the capacity to, and that they don't want to, because it requires from them a change that they don't want to go through, they start to oppress the others. Since I'm not reaching God's kingdom, I'm not reaching the top of the mountain, anyone that comes after me, that are now below me, I'm going to prevent them from reaching that as well. Because I am done. I'm not going to go any longer. You all shouldn't go either. You all should be under me, should be serving me. Since I'm not reaching that anymore, I'm going to be oppressing all of others. I'm going to be oppressing all of you. You're not going to reach the kingdom of heaven. And that's the hypocrisy that blocks heaven to others. Now, that can only block us from reaching the top of the mountain, from reaching heaven, from reaching God, if we allow it, if we let that happen. And the problem here lies in two ways. One is the cultural belief that the more we know, the more we are condemned, which is, again, a fallacy, a hypocrisy, because then what about Christ? Christ knows everything. He understands everything that is going on in this world. Is he apart from God? No. He is using his knowledge for the purpose of God. And then comes the second point, which is when we start to know, when we start to acquire knowledge of what is necessary to be changed, of what is necessary to be done, we then use that knowledge to corrupt others. Since we're not going any longer, we're going to use what we know to corrupt others, to teach them our ways of corruption so that we can block the way for everybody. That is, to have that in their team. That's what Christ is saying here. They go through land and sea for a single convert, and they make that person twice as worse as them. And that's what we see in this world. Unfortunately, we see that. And here I'm not talking only in the material sense, that we have disparity, that we have still struggles in the world that can be prevented, that can be worked on in a way that everybody can live well. We don't need everybody to have a mansion, also because not everybody wants a mansion. And if you think about it, one person with a mansion is too much. The person starts to be feeling alone. if they don't have a family. And even with the family, you can still feel alone in a big house because people can be apart in that big house and not actually have a communion, not actually have a relationship. So it is sad. Big houses can be sad when you don't have strong bonds, a strong relationship, and use that what was given to you for the benefit of the other, that is for the family itself, so that everyone can have a good relationship there. So the point here is that even though we have this in reality, we have disparity, material disparity, we also have spiritual disparity. And the main problem is the spiritual one, because the material will be as a consequence. What is it that Christ tells us in his gospel? Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else will be added to you. And that's a reality. It is so much a reality that what we see in this world is the work against it. Because once we grow spiritually, once we work our ways to reach the top of the mountain, spiritually speaking, everything that is necessary for our lives so that we can live well is added to us. We start to see that everything in this world can be given to us in a way that we can have a good life. That's not impossible. The system makes us think that it is impossible for everybody to have a good life, when in reality it's not. Disparity is not necessary. It is something that emerges from the necessity of growth, but it's not necessary to be maintained. It needs to be changed. It needs to be transformed in a way that it is no longer. That's the hope that we have. That's the future that we go after, that Christ prophesies in his book of Revelation. That's what we are working for. It's not for a world where disparity exists. No, it is a world where it doesn't exist anymore. And as I said, it doesn't mean that everyone will have a mansion and everyone will have the car of the year. No, but at least everyone will be living well. We'll have a good life. We'll be able to buy a coffee during the weekend without worrying about the bills that have to pay. That's what we're talking about. It's for people to have the necessary means to not be worried about material things and focus on the spiritual growth that they need to be focusing on. First of all, if knowledge is being given to us, that means that we have the means to face it, to work with it. And that's what Christ is showing us, that knowledge has to be used for God's purpose. That's what he does. The knowledge that he has, the knowledge that he acquires, is always used for the purpose of God. And what he asks from us is the same, is when we then start to know the things that were hidden, that were obscure for us in our lives, in this world. It's not to destroy us or to corrupt us, but instead it is for us to use what we know in the way that the purpose of God is being manifested. And we are changing the world for better. We are changing the system, because the system that we live in humanity was not something that was given or found as a treasure. No one excavated the laws of democracy or the laws of any type of government. No, they were written by the knowledge that society acquired throughout history with the intuition of God, so that the good things can be manifested. But we as human beings, corrupted and imperfect that we are, always found ways to diverge from what God was giving to us as an intuition, as an insight, as a divine revelation. And then we have the system that we have nowadays. In short, what we have to do is to use what is given to us for God's purpose. That's our work here. That's what Christ is calling us to do, to live for. He calls us to love one another as He loves us, in a way that we are experiencing this love, we're living this love that gives us the strength to use the knowledge that is being revealed to us, that God is giving to us for His purpose, and not to corrupt it, not to prevent others from reaching heaven, from reaching the top of the mountain, but actually to help them, just like our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, all did for the benefit of our family, for the benefit of society. All those souls that we now study and see that in their own ways tried to overcome the hardships, the difficulties of the path towards the top of the mountain, are now this paved way that makes us get closer to God. But then the problem lies, as we said, throughout the stations that were also constructed on this path. And on those stations, people that are using the knowledge that they have to oppress the others that are coming to pass through it and reach the top of the mountain. Christ's will is to all of us to reach God. That's what He was praying in Gethsemane, when He was talking with God about His disciples, that is, all of those that decided to follow His teachings, to follow His light, to get conscience, to get knowledge that helps them, helps us manifest God's purpose in this world. It is Christ Himself that is praying for it. He wants all of us to reach the top of the mountain where He is, with God. That it's not me, that it's not anyone else talking about it. It is Christ. When we read the gospel, we understand that. That is why I am inviting you to take this step towards the knowledge that Christ wants to reveal to you. Read the gospel, read the book of Revelation, read the Holy Bible. I'm leaving links down below for you to have access to it. But do it. Read it, take this step, and you see the path that Christ has laid out for you, in a way that the knowledge you acquire and it is revealed to you will not be corrupted, but will be used for the benefit of the kingdom of God in this world. And thus, by materializing, by helping Christ build His kingdom here in this world, that He will institute, that He will establish once He is here with us, we can all feel the peace of God in our hearts. So let's strive for it, let's work for it, and not be like the hypocrites that Christ is calling the attention here in this passage, but be like His disciples, that through the divine love He gives us, is willing to help others with the revealed knowledge, the acquired knowledge, to manifest His kingdom here in this world.